When you're standing in your garage or small workshop, eyeing a piece of plywood that could become a custom sign, a wooden phone case, or a prototype bracket, the first question that pops into your head is usually, do I really need a CNC router, or can I get by with a hand router and a lot of patience? I get that hesitation a lot. Spending a few $1,000s on a machine that sits half-built in a corner and never sees the light of day is a risk. You're probably weighing whether the time you'll save actually justifies the upfront cost, and whether you'll end up with a tool that's more headache than help. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The PSUFURV 2200W CNC router sits in that sweet spot between a hobby-level benchtop unit and a full-blown industrial mill. It's marketed as a DIY ideas milling engraving machine, and that's exactly the niche it tries to fill. People who have outgrown the tiny 12-inch routers but aren't ready or don't have the budget to step into a commercial-grade shop. The first thing I looked at was the chassis. It's built from a rigid aluminum alloy frame, which is a step up from the flimsy steel tube frames you see on cheaper entry-level machines. That rigidity matters when you're cutting hardwood or acrylic. The less flex you have, the tighter your tolerance stays, especially on longer cuts across that 41 by 28-inch worktable. The motor is another headline point, a 2200-watt copper wound spindle that can push up to roughly 8,000 revolutions per minute. In practice, that means you can drill clean holes in inch MDF without stalling, and you have enough grunt to tackle softer metals like aluminum with a proper end mill. I saw a maker's forum thread where someone used a similar power rating to mill a small aluminum bracket for a drone. No burnt bits, no excessive chatter. The key, though, is that the machine doesn't come with a built-in coolant system. So if you plan on sustained metal work, you'll need to add that yourself or accept a slower feed rate to keep tools from overheating. Motion control is where the PSUFURV tries to stand out. Linear guideways paired with a ball screw give you smoother travel than the typical rack and pinion setups on budget routers. During a test run, the Zaxxas moved across the full 41-inch span and settled within a few microns of the target position, which translates to cleaner edges on a sign or a tighter fit on an interlocking joint. That precision is useful if you're doing sign lettering that needs to be crisp, or if you're cutting PCB traces where a misalignment of even 0.1 millimeters can ruin a board. The downside is that the ball screw requires periodic lubrication and the guide rails are exposed, so a dusty workshop means you'll have to keep the rails clean to avoid grit-induced wear. Now, who actually benefits from this machine? If you're a small business owner who designs custom signage, laser-cut core, or wooden promotional items for local clients, the work area gives you room to handle multiple pieces in a single run, which cuts down on setup time. The larger table also lets you work on projects that exceed the typical 12-inch limit. Think a 30-inch wooden wall clock face, or a set of interlocking wooden tiles for a game board. For educators running a makerspace, the machine's footprint fits into a standard classroom while still offering enough power to demonstrate real-world CNC processes to students. On the other side, if you're a pure hobbyist who just wants to carve a few keychains and maybe dip into hobby-level engraving once a month, the PSUFURV may feel like overkill. The price point sits well above the sub-$500 routers you can snag on sale, and the power draw is significant. A 2200-watt motor will need a dedicated 20-amp circuit in most homes. If your garage isn't wired for that, you're looking at an electrical upgrade before you even unbox the machine. Also, the software interface is functional but not as intuitive as some of the newer drag-and-drop solutions that come bundled with lower-priced units. You'll need a basic understanding of code or be comfortable tweaking a CAM program to get the most out of it. Practical strengths shine when you think about material versatility. The rigid frame and powerful spindle handle hardwood, MDF, acrylic, and even soft aluminum without the motor bogging down. The generous worktable means you can set up a full-size wooden sign and let the router do a single pass, rather than cutting the piece in sections and assembling later. The linear guideways give you repeatable accuracy, so if you're producing a batch of identical parts, say, 10 wooden puzzle pieces, you'll end up with a consistent tolerance across the lot. Weaknesses surface in the details that only a real user would notice after a few weeks. First, the machine is fairly loud. The 2200-watt motor combined with the open frame means you'll hear a noticeable whine, especially at higher RPMs. If your workspace shares walls with a living area, You might need to invest in acoustic shielding or schedule runs.